Hi everybody, this is Gijs again with another review and I hope you are doing well. This time it's a review on a headlamp, the Petzl Eco Core headlamp. And yes, this is in its pouch at the moment. So if you are interested in how it looks in real life, then enjoy this video. And welcome back to the review of the Petzl Eco Core headlamp. Now you see me, I'm in my favorite forest here in my neighborhood, and this is quite a special one because I've been granted permission to stay here overnight this time. I can't disclose the location because otherwise a lot of other people might want to do this. You hear the pheasants? They're all over the place at the moment. Now before I'm going to basically tell you everything there is to know about the Petzl Eco Core, first I'm going to set up camp because there is some rain expected tonight and I don't know where this is going, so I'll come back later. Now with my camp set, it's time to head on to the review of the Petzl Eco Core. But let me take it off because otherwise I might blind the camera. Of course, I've got some artificial light. There is a Lume Cube, which I have a review on my YouTube channel as well. I'll put it in the description below, and somewhere there's a little light as well, and there's a little light as well to make it a little bit more exciting. And without light I cannot do any shooting with my GH5, of course. Now, for those of you who are already following me for some while, welcome back to my channel, and I'm so glad to have you here again. And also many thanks for all your likes and also all your comments. And I try to answer all of them. It doesn't work anymore all the time because I'm growing a little bit by now, but I'll try. Now, for those of you who are just joining my channel for the very first time, I would like to say welcome to my channel. My name is Gijs, which is a really Dutch name. I'm a Dutch gear reviewer. I've been doing this for about 15 years by now, mostly for magazines, of course, and since a couple of years for my YouTube channel. And I live in a very flat country and I'm not being paid for my reviews, so I am totally 100% independent. So if you like what I do at the end of this video, then please give it a like, leave a comment below, but above all, subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to hit the alarm bell so you know when I uploaded a new video, and I have got many more plans. Now let's start with the review itself on the Petzl Eco Core headlamp. When I got it, and it goes back to the manufacturer when I'm done with the video and with all your comments, I was quite surprised because this is a Petzl that is really totally different than I am used to. I have a lot of Petzls, you know, the small Petzl ones with a nice elastic headband and the batteries in front of it, and this one is totally different because it is a headband that is a combination of a sort of a rubbery piece with some elastiband. It's got the headlamp, a very small unit in the front. It's got the battery pack on the back. And when I got this one, and this is how I should basically hold it, you can already see that there is a sort of a shape of a helmet in. And when I put it on, it is really very comfortable. It's a nice snug fit. What you should be aware of is that the fit that I have here at the moment is on my head, my beanie. It also works, of course, on my normal head. It works when I have a hood. This fits. It also works if you have got a hard shell jacket or a soft shell jacket with a large hood and you want to wear this one underneath it or over it. That works as well. One thing that doesn't work, and that's a little bit different than some other headlamps that I have, is when I wear my beloved cap, is that I cannot, I can put it on here, but there's no point. This doesn't really fit really nice. It doesn't really work. So if you are a cap wearing lover cap wearing stuff, then you should be aware of this. Now, I'm almost forgetting the thing that I always begin with, and that is about size and weight. Now let's start with the weight. I put the Petzl Eco Core on my precise scale and I measured a weight of 79.9 grams. Petzl claims a weight of 79 grams, so that 0.9 grams, well, it's neglectable, not important. It's a lightweight headlamp. The pack size, I didn't really measure it because when you fold it together, it's about, I'm a small guy, so I have small fists. It's about a fist full of headlamp. So be aware that if you want to pack it in the top of your backpack, it takes a little bit more space than the Petzls that have the battery headlamp elastic belt. Just be aware of this. Next to this, what I also should mention is that there is a very nice pouch coming with the headlamp. And now I forgot, it's probably in my pocket. It's a nice pouch, and this one fits in there absolutely snug, and this one weighs only 4.9 grams. So if you take this one and put them together, you're about 85 grams more or less. So that's, I think, pretty lightweight in my opinion. Now what I should state is, I mentioned the cap and the beanie, is that if you take this particular headband, that you should be aware of the head size that it fits. And Petzl, I couldn't find it basically on the website and also not in the manual. So I took some pots and pans at home and I tried to fit the headband around them, and I measured a smallest head size of 51.5 centimeters, and the largest pot that I could find where this one would fit on comfortably was 63.6 centimeters. And I've compared this to some numbers that I did on previous headlamp tests, and basically the reach, it's not that wide. So if you have a small head or a rather large head, be aware of this. Saying that large is also important, it does not fit on a climbing helmet. I tried it with a couple of helmets that I own, it just doesn't work. What I really do like about the Petzl Eco Core is basically the core parts in the Petzl. And the core part, it's the battery pack that is on the back. What is nice is that there is this orange, it's reflective material. So if you walk besides a road and somebody approaches you, you will still be visible from behind. But the battery is on the back of your head, it's inside here. It's got a plastic piece on the back, and it's got a sort of rubbery material on the other side. And when I take it off, you will see that the battery, this is the battery, this is the core battery, and it's a system that Petzl came up with a couple of years ago. And what I do like about the core batteries is that the charging point for the USB cable is on the battery itself. So you plug this into your computer or onto a power bank, and the battery will be charged again. The good thing about this is that if you have a second one, you can take this one out, replace it with the second one, and charge this one, for example, with the power pack. Also, what is nice is that basically the housing, or where the battery goes, it also fits 3 AAA batteries. So if you only have one of these and you run out of battery juice, then you can still replace them with the normal regular batteries that are available everywhere, which I think is really good if you are going into the outdoors. Now, I put this one on my precise scale as well, and I measured a weight of 22.8 grams. Is that heavy? No, it is not, because I also put 3 AAA batteries on my scale, and they weighed together 34.5 grams. Now, about energy, this one contains 1250 milliampere hour of energy. Now, let's start with basically the use, and we'll start with the button. Let me place the battery back first. Now it says quite simple where it should go. It's quite an easy system. Don't do it with your hands if they are too cold. Now, let me put my beanie on because it is getting a little bit chilly by now. Now, let me put it on. What you will see is that if it sits on my head, that the battery pack is on the back, it's near my atlas, and that's why there is such a nice balance of the whole system. Now, the button. The button is placed on the bottom side of the headlamp, which is quite special because most of the headlamps that I own, they have got the button on top. And in this case, you don't use your index finger, but you use your thumb. And I've came to the conclusion that this is a really nice way of using the headlamp. The button, it is quite small, it is rubbery, it has got a nice rough touch to it, so when you have wet hands you don't slide on it. It's also situated between two little hills, and that means that if you want to adjust your headlamp during a hike, you don't immediately press the button, and I think that is good too. What you should be aware of is, and I'll take my gloves, those of you who are following me already, they've seen these gloves. They are the Hestra gloves. I put the review on a couple of weeks ago. I'll put the link in the description as well. With these gloves, even touching the button, it still goes sort of okay. But I've tried this with big winter gloves as well when the weather gets colder, and then the button is a little bit on the very small side, to be honest. So just be aware of this. Now let's continue with the lights. Of course, like most headlamps nowadays, the Petzl is equipped with LEDs. And there's a row of 3 on the top, and there is a row of 4 LEDs on the bottom. The trick behind these LEDs is that the top row, and I'll switch it on, the top row is for the maximum burn time. That means a long lasting power, which is in this case, according to Petzl, 100 hours, and it produces 6 lumens, and the beam will go 10 meters far. Now if I press it again, and now you will see it turns off. This is quite irritating. This happens all the time. Now I have to press it twice again, so basically one time into the maximum burn time mode and then into the standard burn time mode, because in the standard burn time mode it produces 100 lumen and it takes about a beam of 45 meters in reach. Now what Petzl promises is a burn time of 9 hours, and then after 9 hours it switches into a energy safe modus, and then it will still burn for 2.5 hours. Now if I press it again, it goes off again, so I'll have to press it 1, 2, 3 times, so basically 4 times. Now I am into the maximum power modus, and then of course I've got the least burn time, which is in this case 2.5 hours. Then it switches back to the energy consumer friendly modus, then it will still run for 4.5 hours. Now it produces what it says on the package, 500 lumens, and the range is 100 meters. Now that is about the light modes, and now you might think, is this all? Yes, basically this is all, and there is one thing really missing, because when you see me pressing this, you will notice that there is a red LED over there. But this Eco Core does not have a red LED that you can use when, for example, reading a book or reading a map. And it's something that I really like, because with the red LED, you still are very able to see the map if you use it. But when you look into the darkness, you will immediately see what's around you. When you use a white light shining onto a map, basically the light is too much reflecting, so your pupils will go very, very small, and then when you look into the distance, into the black again, your eyes have to adapt to basically the new situation, which is bonkers. So I don't understand why this Eco does not have a red LED. It should really be there if it is an outdoor lamp. Now that was enough about the light. What I did not mention yet is that when it changes back to the energy friendly modus, in the standard burn time and into the maximum power burn basically, it doesn't switch back to the, let's say, the modus that I'm showing you now, the 3 LEDs in front of you. No, what does the Petzl do? It changes back to a light that is rated, according to Petzl, to 0.25 lux. And now all of a sudden we're not talking about lumen anymore, but about lux. 0.25 lux is the amount of light that's being emitted by a full moon and a clear sky. Well, if you are into the outdoors and you go for a hike when there is a full moon and a clear sky, then you basically don't need a headlamp. So that's enough. And it's very clever that they basically downscale the amount of light that is being emitted by the Petzl, so that you have a very long burn time, so that you can still see the trail wherever you are going. Now let's get back to lumen and lux, because Petzl states two different numbers. 500 lumen maximum output and 0.25 lux that hits a surface. Now, and this is very important for you to know on headlamps or lighting in general. Lumen and lux are totally different values. Let me have a little sip of water now, because talking takes energy. When we're talking about lumens, the good thing about the Petzl is, and not every manufacturer does this, Petzl states how they measure it, and they measured it by a universal ANSI protocol. And it's quite an old protocol by now. I think it's dated back to 2009. It's never been adapted, while lights have been changing, I think, a lot. But what they do is they put the light into a sphere and they measure the amount of light that is emitted in that sphere. That's nice. What I want to know is basically how much light is usable. So if I shine with the Petzl onto a tree of 2 meters away from me, or in 100 meters away of me, I want to see how visible is this. Now, and this is where the lux number comes in. And for the lux measurements, Petzl states the 0.25 for the, let's say, the full moon amount of light that you will still have as usable light. But I always measure this myself. Now, let me take you into a little bit of what I did a couple of days ago on how I measure this. Now, how do I measure the amount of lux that comes from the Petzl and falls onto a object? Well, I have a trail near the place where I live, and there is my car. And so this is the light from basically the car lights. And I've got a tape measure, which is 0.0 here. And then I've got 3 pegs marked at the 5 meter point, the 10 meter point and the 20 meter point. And what I do, I place basically the Petzl on top of the hood of my car, not with the lights on, of course. And then I measure with the lux meter the amount of light that falls onto this milky glass. And I do this at the 5, 10 and 20 meter point. And then in the screen of the lux meter, I can simply read what amount of light is hitting this object. So how much light comes from here. That is really useful for us in the outdoor life. Now you know how I measure the amount of lux that falls onto a surface, in this case the light meter, of course, or the lux meter. And for the maximum burn time modus, I measured at 5 meters 0.05 lux. Now for the 10 meters and the 20 meters it was 0 lux, and for the 5 meters or for the 10 meters I can imagine that my lux meter is just not precise enough, but it's hardly visible. Now when I go to the standard burn time modus, then at 5 meter I have 10.4 lux. At 10 meters 2.1 and at 20 meters 0.04 lux. Now then, of course, the most interesting one is the maximum power output. I measured at 5 meters 30.9 lux, at 10 meters 7.1 lux and at 20 meters 1.8 lux. Now those numbers, they're just nice to know, and if you don't compare them to any other headlamp, they're also a little bit useless. So let me talk a little bit about the beam pattern itself. And let me place it back on my head because it's so silly in my hands. What I really do love about the Eco is the beam pattern itself. The trick of the Petzl is that with the 3 top LEDs, if you put it into the maximum burn time modus, the light that is emitted, it's a sort of smallish round beam, and you can see in front of you. And you can see a little bit what's ahead of you, but not really. It's usable, but it's not the best. But in the standard burn time modus, with the 4 LEDs on the bottom, you've got a very nice combined beam from up and the lower part, which means that you've got a really nice reach in the distance, and it's a sort of a oval in front of me. But you also see a really nice, well, sort of arch that you see low-hanging branches or fallen trees. And in the place where I live, I've got a trail where I always test headlamps and running lights. I've got really a nice amount of trees close together, arches, and you can really see the benefit of those two beams combined together. Now, what happens with the maximum power is that you've got the same beam pattern, there's only more light emitted, so that what you see is only better. And I really love this high beam, but in real life I hardly used it because the standard burn time beam is way enough. Now, I already mentioned the pouch, and I mentioned that it is 4.9 grams, which is of course ridiculously lightweight. But what I like about this pouch is it's made out of a whitish material. It's a ripstop, I think it's a nylon. And what I can do, and now let me show you this. I put the headlamp, let's do the medium mode. I put the headlamp in there, and now I can squeeze the pulling cord, and what I get is basically a sort of lamp that I can hang in my tent or into my shelter tonight, so I can still do some reading with a really nice light. If you've got this as an extra, this is really a nice bonus. It's nice to have when you buy this Petzl Eco. Now, when you have this in your tent and you want to do some decent reading, then if you are like me, I read into hours and hours and hours. So battery life is important as well. Now, I didn't measure everything. I put this one back in my pants again because it's getting a little bit windy. I didn't measure every configuration that is possible, but what I did measure is the high power mode, how long the battery lasts. Petzl promises a battery life of 2.5 hours and then 4.5 hours of the energy friendly modus. What I measured, and I did this I think 3 or 4 times, and I averaged it. I measured that at full power mode it burns 2 hours and 22 minutes. So that's pretty close to what Petzl claims, and the reserve time was 4 hours and 36 minutes. So that's also pretty close. Now, because of this, I stopped doing all the other ones because I think that the numbers Petzl claims basically on the website and also in the manual, I think they are pretty accurate, and we'll have to trust them in this case because I don't have the time to measure everything. Now, when the battery is gone, you need to recharge it, and I already said that you can recharge it with a USB cable into the battery directly, and the charging time that Petzl claims is about 3 hours. I measured it at home, and I did it on my iMac, on my MacBook Pro, and I did it also on a power bank, and I come to a sort of average of 3 hours and 36 minutes. This is way longer than Petzl claims, and I think it is a bit on the long side, to be totally honest, because if you want to charge your battery on the go, then the faster it charges or recharges, the more convenient it basically is. Now, from the battery, let's go back to basically the battery casing. I already mentioned that it's quite tough to get the rubbery part of the battery pack itself. That's of course because of the waterproofness. Now, the Petzl Eco Core is rated IPX4, and IPX4 means it is splash water resistant. That means it's not waterproof. Now, I've been wearing this one for the last couple of weeks quite a lot on very early morning hikes, regrettably in the pouring rain, but for the testing it was good because it proved that the Petzl is absolutely water resistant. I've had so much rain on this one that I'm not going to guarantee that it is waterproof. I wouldn't dive into a swimming pool or go diving with it, but if you are into the outdoors and you get into a downpour from a couple of hours in the night, then don't worry, this one will continue burning. Unless when the battery runs out, of course. Now, that was quite a lot of information on a very small headlamp. So I think it's time to head on to my verdict. How do I rate the Petzl Eco Core? Now, in the first place, I really do love the comfort of this very funny headband. I was used to getting a sort of elastic, wide, broad elastic band around my head, but this one, I think it's absolutely comfortable. And next to that, if you pull the cord quite well, it stays there, and it is very good also for trail running and in a normal outdoor activity. It will never ever fall off your head. So, On the downside, of course, of the headband is, yes, it doesn't fit with a cap and also not with a helmet. And also on the downside is that I think the adjustable range, you should be aware of basically the sizes that I mentioned. Be aware that it is from 51.5 to 63.6 approximately. So if you are outside this range, then really buy this one in a shop and try to fit it on your head. Or if you do this online, then fit it on your head as soon as you get it, and if it doesn't fit, send it back in a sort of new condition. Next to the comfort, I think the best thing really is the beam pattern. I like in the medium and the high power modus that the beam pattern in getting a lot of, well, oval reach into the distance and a really nice round circle in front of me so I can see low hanging branches. I think it's absolutely perfect, and that's something that I say, and I'm only 1.70 meters tall. Bit silly maybe, but I really love this beam pattern. I might like the beam pattern, but what I do absolutely miss is a red LED for reading my maps or reading a book at night and still be able to look into the distance without my eyes having to adapt the whole time to a bright white light. What you also should be aware of is that the button under normal circumstances, 90% of the time it works fine for me, but with thick winter gloves, if you go into the winter with the Petzl, then the thick winter gloves, they have a little bit of a problem with the very tiny button. I like the weight of the Petzl because, you know, together with the pouch, it is only a carrying weight of 85 grams, and this is only 79.9 grams on my head, and the balance between the back and the front, it is absolutely fine. What I also do like is the pouch that is white and that you can use when you put your lamp inside it to enlighten the whole tent, so you can still be reading when it's pouring with rain outside. I really like it, although it is a very harsh white light. Now, the fact that the Petzl is rated IPX4, which means it's water resistant, I think it's fine because it's proven to be very, very water resistant in the downpours that I had when testing this one. Now, there's one thing I did not mention yet, and that is of course the price. Well, the Petzl EcoCore retails for €79.95. And although I know I made some negative remarks on the button and especially on the missing of the red light, but I think the comfort and the beam pattern and the overall feel of it, it overpowers this anyway. So yes, €79.95, it is quite a hefty price tag, but if you buy it, it is really money well spent. And therefore I rate the Petzl EcoCore headlamp at 8.1 points out of 10 total. Now, I hope you liked this review and that it was useful to you. And if it was, please give it a like and leave a comment below. And also, if you've got any remarks, suggestions or questions, please use the comment section because that's what it's for, and I'm more than happy to answer everything that you can throw at me. If this is the first time that you've seen one of my videos and you liked it, then please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the alarm bell as well so you know when I uploaded a new video. And if you're not totally convinced or really liked what I do, then please continue watching because I've got many more reviews and also some expert advice how-to tutorial videos on my channel, and I'll put the link up here and also in the description below. So please continue watching. Now, and if you're done for today and want to go outdoors like I do, then please enjoy the outdoors and stay safe. Ciao, ciao! Bam!